stop ATM card, checkbook requests, and PIN change. Our real-time gross settlement allows the customer to instruct the bank to transfer funds from their account to another account at another bank. Our expertise and experience in international banking is both legendary and the envy of the market. Retail banking. One
nga rod na Allah wato kuma ta baki asira linga da fo ko nyi fawo dinkira
hey elafta maboro la bank kalpo e fa igiso e seo na yuna jang iba dinkira to kati yuna wallet ibe falindiro ke kan sandiri nyat
ni la yuna wallet to si muna fanno tulo yabo mano kandri en fen jama isi sanno la yona wallet to kono yalla kamo soto ila wallet to kono
alkana la konda no tay ka fi yuna wallet anatan tolle mukan na balwo fanondi abe sona yaren ko bulu podo ne la mobile scan yo science ise ma boro ke wato men diate
ko be sandro ke fangole ba ko ba ke kan dimbalem isi ngi lonko e sandro yona enterprise wato wati ani la yona wallet to la ibe lan kamo soto kay la wallet to kono
alina nga kafun nanyi yuna dimbayal kan kasandiro ke yuna bitikoto alina kata nyin ko kentat la sura fa lolu di sandiro kije se ma boro fanan keje
moro jun diana nyum ko di mabal nyin kadeda
This season on Kerr Fatou.
The reason I have always called for a national dialogue is because a government
Hello and welcome to another Thursday, and it's the first Thursday of Ramadan, and I want to say Ramadan Karim to all of you. Alama mabela jarla, alama nasunkar siala. Be Nata Nagjang, another guest, of course, Honorable Mai Ahmed of GMC. It's been over, I don't know, is it 2 years already?
At least
it's almost 2 years,
3
right?
years, 2019, I think.
What happened? What happened, Mai? I'll
book my invitation set up.
So the thing is, now it's so difficult to get you on any platform. You have this new Jenaba, I don't know whatever her name is.
Jenaba
Njai, your new PR. She is just so strict, and she never. I want honorable. she's always trying to give you, she gives a tough time, let me just say that. So it's difficult to get you. And we don't like that as media people. We have direct access to you guys.
That is correct.
But if you make all of these things, it makes it difficult for us. Look, 2 years plus, you haven't come on the platform.
It's unfortunate. I mean, I'm not a professional, but I like the access.
Yeah,
I like the access. Really.
That's what we like.
I like the access. I think you should not be unduly restricted. Really.
Yeah.
We want to get to the people. We want people to hear us. We want to be visible.
Yeah.
And if you're helping to manage our image, it's very important to understand that we are public figures.
Yes.
And that is where our relevance lies.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate what my people are doing, but I think what I did today,
yeah.
I think after it's new to me also.
After some time, you called,
it's
called
new to
yourself.
me.
I'm like, okay.
I was like, this third party, go here. I was like, look, you know what?
Yeah.
I have the number. Why don't I just
let
call
me just call
straight?
direct, and we made it through.
It's easier.
You called, and we said, you know what? Let's do it today.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of having access to.
That is correct.
But I'm happy that you're here. But for the past 1.5 years, what have you been up to, Honorable? We don't see you on the media. I think time to time I see headlines and stuff, and I'm like, but what have you been up to all this while?
Well, it's important to understand that besides politics, because for some people, they can sit on social media 24 hours.
Yeah.
They can talk and do everything they can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the media. I mean, so many other Gambians who are very active in the public space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to understand the significance of timing.
Yeah.
It is not every time that you should be on people's face all the time.
Yeah.
That is one. Number two, there is something else besides politics. We are responsible people.
Yeah.
You have dependents, you have families depending on you, you have extended families.
Mm-hmm.
You also have obligations, social obligations.
Yeah.
You have political obligations that have financial implications. And manna doesn't fall from the sky. You really have to work for these things. So I have another life, which is work life.
Yeah.
And so I'm also busy with work and business. So that's very important. What you do, you make some money and you plow it back into politics. That is what happens in this country. So if you do politics every day, and your donor base is not expansive,
yeah.
then you really have to work hard and pull yourself by own string, in a sense. So I have been busy with some politics. I have been active in the public space where it is necessary. But a lot of the time I was busy on what is important to me first. First and foremost, I'm a family man. My family, my kids, my siblings and extended family who depend on me, and for their sustenance and for their life goals. So that's very important to me. So I've been very busy getting that done. I'm sure there's a lot of time for politics too.
Yeah, there's a lot of time for it, but politics. In politics, they say relevance really matters, right?
That is correct.
To be actively giving, the base updates, and also if things are happening in the country, to be able to say, to bring your reactions to that. We haven't seen, for the past, Mai used to have press conferences, just to give us a bit, or if you have something happening in the country, coming out and giving your reactions to that. We haven't seen that also. What has GMC, apart from himself, the party GMC, why have they been so quiet? Is everything going well in the country?
No. I mean, we haven't been so quiet. I mean, I've had press conferences.
Yeah, but we haven't had your reactions to issues.
We have been reacting to... We've been reacting to issues.
What have been happening to GMC?
We have been reacting to issues. I mean, we are in the media. At least every week you will get to hear something from, at least in the print media.
Recently.
In the print media, and no, not just this time of these famous issues going on at the moment.
Yeah.
But yes, when there are topical issues, issues of fundamental importance to Gambians, we would come out and say something.
Yeah, I see you on the headlines.
It is not as...
Especially lead stories. I see you on lead stories a lot.
Yeah, it's not as frequent as it used to be.
Yeah.
But it is. And most of what is being touted today, we have been talking about them. We've been talking about the difficulties, how people find it difficult, to put the food on the table every day. We've been talking about inflation. We've been talking about the economy. All these things, we've been talking about them. And not only that, we've also made several efforts to speak them where they ought to be spoken. Access. we speak to decision makers and policy makers, and try to influence how we can, behind the scenes as well. So it is very important in politics to have leverage. And at some point when you are in politics, I'm no longer young in politics again.
Yeah, it's been
I used to be extremely stubborn, very, hot-headed.
That's what we miss, though.
And many times, sometimes temperamental, which is not fine. You see, I think right now I'm growing into the thing. I'm growing into it, and as you grow into it, you change. Things change without you realizing it. Things about you change in the manner you approach issues. You become a bit more mature. Your focus is not just to make the news. Your focus is to have impact, and impact is not only in the news. Impact is also getting to sit down with the people who make decisions to see how you can influence the process of decision making. But how has
that been effective, though?
Well, it is not easy because government is a very big machine. Government is a very big and heavy machine. But what you can do is to have the personal touch, which can also be very important. And you see, policy making is one thing. The impact of policy is another. When you make a policy, before you feel its impact, it takes time. Certain policies are very immediate, particularly those that have legislative effect, those that have a sense of urgency in them. But policy that affects, that is intended to changing the overall lifestyle of people, lifestyle of people, it takes time to evolve. And so we have been speaking to policymakers. I have been speaking to senior government officials about things, and I'm sure it's making some progress. And I'm not saying that is the only thing we should be doing, but we make noise when we ought to make noise.
Oh, okay. Now, we also saw you at the National Dialogue.
Yes.
The president called for a national dialogue. A lot of people welcomed it. I was not one of those who said I felt that there wasn't anything coming out of it.
Yes.
I didn't see any need for the national dialogue, and I made my position clear.
Yes.
But I also respected people that thought it was important to go there and have a conversation, and you are one of those people. What do you think, if there is the impact that national dialogue have made politically?
Well, when I appeared, and one of the things I said was, there is no national crisis. We have economic challenges, but we are not in a crisis where they're accused for petrol, they're accused for rice and sugar. We have basic commodities. The difficulty we have is they are not easily affordable. That is a problem. But we do not have any national crisis. There is no civil war in any part of the country. There is no communal conflict to a level that threatens our national existence. And so why a national dialogue, I said. And I thought the reason why national dialogue has taken place is because perhaps the president wants a new direction. This was my thinking. I said the president wants a new direction, he wants new ideas. And I included that, integrated that in my intervention. He wanted to hear what we have to say. And so perhaps he believes that this might help in galvanizing the nation for a common purpose. And I thought in that sense it made some logic to me. It's reasonable. Now, but then we are given a topic. There is an agenda. There is a theme, and you are asked to speak within that theme. Yes, and we were given a very short period.
3 minutes, 5 minutes.
And not only that, the notice period was also about 2 to 4 days, 3 to 4 days.
3 to 5 days.
So we were not given enough time, number one. And number two, we were not given enough time to prepare. Number two, we were not given enough time to present what we ought to present. And number three, we are confined to a theme. So it's difficult to go outside that. Now, I felt that the manner, the format was not very satisfactory to me. But I went in because my party wanted us to go in. It was a matter that was discussed by GMC National Executive. It was debated. And there were some disagreements, and we persuaded each other. And ultimately, the overall consensus was we should go into this. The format is not how we wanted it. The theme is not necessarily what we prefer. And the timing is rather short. But they're calling for a national dialogue. It is important for us to be present and give our view on this. Perhaps we could recommend the format could change in the future. Perhaps we could suggest it should be more expansive in terms of time. Perhaps we should recommend that it should not be limited to something. But let us go and make a presentation. And that is how we went. So the impact is too soon to determine. It's, I'm not seeing anything in the direction, except that political parties came together. And this is not the first time. We do come together on the interparty.
Interparty, yeah.
Yes, we do come together. We have that, once or twice a year. We come together and we have a breakfast. We speak to each other on issues, general issues affecting our parties.
Yeah.
So this is not the first time political parties are coming together, but this is the first time we are coming with the president, as a government. This is the first time.
Yeah, I mean, some people, like I believe, for example, especially for political leaders, it would have been very good to have a behind-the-scene meeting and have a closed-door conversation as to the real issues that, especially parties face and, what you can do. Because, when you are in the media and everybody is trying to just make a statement and make a headline and do things for publicity, you're not talking about the real issues. And the real issues are not just the things that were said there. The real issues are how political leaders are attacking each other, and that reflects back to their base because they also go at each other, and how it looks like there is war between some political leaders, and there need to be that one-to-one, or have all the 7 or 20 political leaders sitting down and having the closed-door meetings as to what the direction should be. But just coming on the media and just everybody coming and making a statement, President Barrow, it looked to me as a photo op. Because apart from that, what else? Because you guys had that meeting, and they went, the political parties went to the conference center, had a 2-day meeting and came up with a resolution. That was it. What came out of your meeting, the political leaders itself? Nothing, basically. It's just everybody having a 3-minute statement about what you think, and that was it. But would you prefer something like that also, like a closed-door meeting, having real issues discussed between you and people getting vulnerable about how they feel about each other? That would have been more impactful, in my opinion. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
In fact, you're speaking from my mind. This was the format, the issue of format we are talking about.
Yeah.
We think it's a good start. I mean, at least it has, something has happened, and we think it could be improved. But our vision would have been, round a table, all of us with the president, around a big conference table,
without camera.
Without any cameras, and also, we all loosen up, our size, and look at each other in the face, bond, and speak to each other, how governance is going on. We talk about the economy. We talk about relationship between political parties. We talk about the political tension, the simmering, latent political tension. These are some of the matters that will make more sense. And then there will be a resolution. Not even, it could be a whole day, could be half a day, could be a 2 day.
2 days,
And then there will be a resolution. All political parties would sign that. Then we come together, the president in front of us, reading the resolution of a joint meeting of political parties and the president. This is what we intend to do. These are our action plans. And then we can monitor how it will be implemented. All of us can become auditors to determine how the government was implementing a resolution. I think this would have been more useful, it would have been more impactful than grandstanding. It was more on grandstanding. Because when you bring the media, then all of a sudden your psychology changes. You are concerned about what your base would say. What are you going to say that will impact your base? You're no longer just thinking about the country. Would my base like what I'm saying? What about the rest of the governments? Would they like this? So there are too many considerations, and then also, you also have to make up for the media, for the cameras, and these are not very useful. So I do not even know what the resolutions are. I don't know. I have not received any copy from the National Dialogue Committee or Secretariat, and I don't know what the resolutions are. I don't know how we are going to measure implementation of the resolutions. I don't know how far we are going into anything that has been said. So that is from the position of GMC. We are not aware. We don't know what is happening with the dialogue, and we don't know what has been the common themes, the common trend, the common thread of the conversations that were, the discussions that were held there, and which ones the government believe are actionable. We don't know. So it took place, it's closed, and that is the end of it. It's not impactful at all, I think.
It's not impactful.
In terms of, in my view, not impactful in that we do not have actionable programs that emerge out of it yet. Yes. It is good that we came together. It is good that we gave our views on a number of issues, and some talked about corruption, openly. We
Yeah.
all talk about corruption.
Yeah.
For me, it was about the civil service. I talked about how I feel the civil service is inefficient in so many areas and
Yeah.
why we need reform in the area. And I believe everything that we say is useless if we still have the same civil service that is not reformed.
Yeah.
You know, and so those are issues that we can tell directly to the face of the president, and the country can hear. But what next?
What next?
That's the question.
What next? And talking about what next, just 2 days after the national dialogue, it was independence, and of course the APRC No to Alliance movement were at the buffer zone, you know, organizing a fundraising where they had applied for a permit and it was approved by Gas Sabali, and they were tear gassed. And a lot of people said that what was the essence of the dialogue? You know, when these people are a movement. I mean, when they wanted to go to elections as an independent candidate, as a movement, they were not stopped because that is their right. They have a right.
Yes.
Even we know they have their internal issues with the main APRC, but they have their own movement and they're doing their stuff. So they were tear gas. And a lot of people, even though people don't agree with the APRC, people say, some people will say, oh, Jammeh used to tear gas us. I said, just because Jammeh did it doesn't make it right. So when you see that 2 days after the dialogue, you question, what were we dialoguing for? What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, I was a little bit surprised because when I heard that they were issued a permit, so I thought, well, that because people misunderstand this permit thing and holding a meeting. The Constitution of the Gambia guarantees freedom of association, and so they could hold their meeting. But holding a public meeting is also subject to the right of the public.
Yeah.
And that is where you need a permit. You also need, you know, public address system because you are going to go into the airwaves and you'll be disturbing neighbors and so forth.
Yeah.
And that is where you need a permit to use a public address system because the public is now represented by the state, by the police. When they give it authority, then the public, you know, presumably gives you their okay. So when I was told and I read in social media that they were issued a permit, I couldn't understand why, you know, their meeting would be disrupted. I could not, you know. And so I'm not still very au fait with all of the facts because, you know, you speak to law enforcement, they said, well, we issued them a permit, but then they violated the conditions of their permit. And then you speak to this other side, then they said, no, we, you know, they just came all of a sudden and start jumping on us. So we did not violate anything. Now, so it is neither here nor there. You know, since I am not on either side, I cannot take a position and say the police were right or APRC were wrong. But all I could say is that
what really happened was they issued them a permit. Gas, who is the operation commander around Bundungo area, was the one who issued the permit. Right. And at some point, she came to the buffer zone and had a conversation with them regarding their permit. And while she was at the station with the executive talking about the conditions of a permit, and they were talking about that, the PIU came from Kanifing and tear gassed these people without the commander who was responsible for the area even knowing. She was at the station with the rest of the APRC men when this happened, and she was dumbfounded. So it's like, even the policemen, the lady who was in charge, they did not even listen to her own command because she was the one who gave the permit and she spoke to her. But the police themselves, they knew they were wrong because we had the police PRO here. All she was saying, we could not go in details, but we know things happen and we accepted. We had a meeting with them, we're sorting it out. The police will never say those kind of things if they know they were not wrong. So they were wrong because they were the ones who issued the permit. If you issue somebody a permit, they're in an enclosed, they were not outside, enclosed perimeter. Some of the things that they were saying, they had green color there, they had other things. But the green does green, I can wear green or anything. And does that violate any permit? You are a lawyer, Mai. Are those conditions things that should violate any permit? Like wearing green or something? And they were even saying they didn't wear green. They had their normal attire because there was a fundraising.
No, I don't know. I cannot speak to the facts, but I can tell you this. If No to Alliance decides to use, I'm not even talking about green. I'm talking about my color, GMC color, red, at their meeting. That is not a ground for, you know, for the police to jump on them. That is a matter for me to file a complaint with the IEC number one, that, you know, another group, political group, using my color, and then I go to due process. That is the way to do that. If they persist, then I can go to court and secure an injunction to prevent them from further using and parading themselves using my color, my party color. That is the rule of law. That is what should normally obtain. And to say that they were using a green flag really should not be a reason for police intervention. That is not the domain of the police force, because there had to be a formal complaint filed, and even that is still not criminal. So it is not the domain of the police force to disrupt a meeting, a no to alliance meeting, because they were using red color, using green color. I would respectfully disagree with the police if that was any reason for it. You know, that is no valid legal reason at all. They could use it. It is for APRC to follow due process through the relevant institutions, you know, and which include the IEC, of course, which also include the law courts, to go to court and, you know, have an injunction to say this specific color is registered for our party. Any other party that does so, you know, should be prevented. Yeah. That is what companies would do if anybody wants to use Fatou's logo. Yeah. You know, Kerr Fatou logo. Well, you go to court. You don't send the police to arrest them. No. You know, this is not. It's not criminal. Yeah. You know, it's a civil infraction. So that is not reason enough. And if that was a reason, frankly speaking, it was improper. Yeah. Then the next thing is, I think we need to reform. Yeah. We need to reform this particular aspect of the law. You know, in other countries, what you give is notification. You notify law enforcement that you're going to have a meeting, so that they could prepare in the event of a disobedience of some sort that may threaten public disorder. Then they can be ready for it. But in this day and age, you know, our democracy should have matured to a level where people should be permitted to hold political meetings and political rallies by giving notification to law enforcement agents and hold it responsibly. Because political parties are expected to form a government. They're expected to behave in accordance with the law. So they should be trusted by the law and by authorities to hold their meetings without a presupposition that they would not hold it peacefully. You know, I think that supposition would be wrong. So we need really to change the law. The law of, you know, all these things, because you have to go back and do that.
All of these things.
I think it's a fetter. It's a fetter on democratic practice. I'm not condemning the state. I'm not making any condemnation. What I'm saying is that the law needs to be amended. We need to reform this law and do away with it. It is not causing any harm in developed societies, in developing countries, even in our own country. It is not causing any harm. But we should not seek to criminalize, you know, this unwarranted attitude, behavior, simply because it's, you know, it's an inheritance, a colonial legacy. The colonial forces wanted this Public Order Act because, you know, they want to control us. And now that we have evolved out of that, you know, half a century after independence, I think we should rely on our institutions and rely on our maturity, you know, to be able to hold meetings. Our elders have meetings at the Bantaba, and they disagree. You know, there could be acrimony, but they come to a consensus. So I think notice to the law enforcement agents, sufficient notice is enough. If there is a security threat, then there should be a negotiation between the organizers and the law enforcement agents in order to perhaps postpone it or lower the scale. You know, if there is a really a strongly grounded national security interest at stake, I would understand that.
So one of the National Assembly members sponsored a private member bill, exactly what you're saying, to say let's amend the Public Order Act and put in place measures where you will have to notify the IGP's office, and also once you notify them, they should be able to provide you security and all that stuff, instead of saying we apply for a permit. But it was thrown out from like the first reading. It was thrown out. So it seems like we are not ready for that.
Yes, but you see, some of these things are not properly reasoned, you know, because when it comes to Parliament, you know, politics, you know, partisan politics comes into play. And usually these political parties support it. Yeah. Then this political party brings it, automatically they oppose it. It is opposed. So it is not objective. They are not properly reasoned by the other side. And national interest does not always take precedence. You know, and other times, the other things, they are not usually very analytical, because when a bill comes before you, first and foremost, look at what it seeks to remedy. What is it that the law seeks to change? What harm has it caused? How is it going to advance, you know, the course of society? That is very important. And so those who rejected that, it was unfortunate. I was hoping that that bill will succeed. You know, but then it was viewed from the partisan lens, that it will give everybody, every Tom, Dick and Harry, an opportunity to go out and say something. But that's what democracy is all about. Democracy is very inconvenient, you know.
Yeah.
And it can be very inconvenient, particularly if you are the ruling
If
party.
you are incumbent, yeah.
Yes,
If you are the ruling party, yeah.
It can be. But we must accept that.
And especially, you know, looking at this government, how it came, it was, you guys were in the coalition.
That is correct.
Reforms were the center stage of this coalition.
That was our agenda.
This was the agenda.
Yes.
None of it happened. I mean, some started. The security
very
sector
little.
reform, you know,
Very little.
has not moved an inch. It is at the same stage it has been since you left. And, you know, the civil service reforms, the same thing. The laws, Solo Sandeng went to jail because of the public orders. He was killed because of the public orders. Yes, a lot of people said because of his legacy, this should have happened. I blame the UDP a lot for that, because Solo was a member of the UDP. You would think that they had the numbers in the 5th legislature, they would have pushed that. That was his legacy. You would have pushed that and make it work. Now they don't have the numbers. It's difficult to do it. And we see people bringing those numbers, things here. But it's sad to think that all of the things that the coalition was built on, the agenda, all of these things are just there. And now when you see bills like the cyber crime being tabled by the minister, you know they're targeting online medias and other people. You see the new criminal defense, I think it's the criminal offenses bill 2020 also being amended, and all of these things. You're thinking, what is happening? Are you concerned about some of these bills though? The cyber crime bill and the criminal offense bill 2020?
Well, I'm very concerned about any policy, any measure that seeks to unduly restrict, you know, our freedoms.
Yeah.
You know, whatever freedoms they are. I'm very much concerned about them, because for over 2 decades, this country has been suffocated. And the reason why we were able to come together was we all realized there was an existential threat. Our sovereignty was at stake. And we came fundamentally, no other reason, but to reform. We came with a reform agenda.
Yeah.
We want to change things. You know, we want to change what used to obtain will no longer obtain. And, you know, many of us were very excited that we are now going to a new Gambia. That's why we call it New Gambia at the time.
Yeah.
And so whatever was reminiscent of the old Gambia belonged to history. New Gambia must be forward-looking and must be progressive. And the Gambia should be a point of reference for the international community, for developing nations. That a small, tiny country in Africa, you know, has produced a great impact in terms of politics, in terms of change, in terms of transformation in Africa. And the Gambia would be good news for all the good reasons. That was the aspiration. Now, we have made some progress, but the progress has been pretty much lateral. You know, it has not been what has been, you know, envisaged in terms of reforms. Reforms have taken place, but they are very slow. They are slow for my liking, for example. I believe that, you know, the pace of reform was painstakingly slow. The reforms in the civil service, reforms in the public sector, these are areas, reforms of our law books, that is statutory reforms, leading to a new constitutional amendment, a new referendum, a new constitution. These are the fundamental projects. These are the A projects of the coalition. In fact, these were the blood and the motor of the coalition program. So we should have, by now, we should have had a reformed civil service. We should have had a more vibrant, professional police force, let's say law enforcement agencies, you know, security sector. By now, we should have had some of the most progressive laws in Africa, you know, the Gambia. And by now, you know, the Gambia should have institutionally been totally different. But what we have, the level of institutional decadence, incompetence, the kind of laws that are coming, and the type of civil service we have, and the security sector, is still not what we really aspire for. I know some efforts have been made, and when you talk to government officials, you talk to policymakers, they will tell you, well, you know, we have a lot of right sizing. You know, the armed forces have been right sized. We're now introducing exams for promotional exams. We are now promoting people based on performance and not based on political allegiance. And they cite a lot of these things. We talk about the national security policy, national security strategy policy, policy documents that are excellent. And they will make reference to all of these things to show the trajectory of the reform that is taking place. And we talk about the civil service also, they will give you similar instances, and they talk about the new pay scale and all these things. But, you know, what is significant about all these things is the impact. Do we feel the impact of these things? Is it visible?
Yeah.
Can we really say, realistically speaking, are these things impacting our daily life? Do we really feel it tangibly? That is where, for me, my point lies. I still see the same civil service before. I mean, I don't see much change in the performance of the civil service.
Yeah.
I don't see any significant transformation in the structure of the civil service. I don't see any significant transformation in the efficiency of the civil service. Even these old structures like permanent secretary, under secretary, all these things. They are retarding the progress of the civil service. The approval system, the decision-making lineup, all these things they're inhibiting our progress. When you come down to the security sector, the same thing. So we are not really having significant step towards the raison d'etre of the change in 2017. We have a lot of infrastructure programs, a lot of new economic policies, but even there, every change must take everything along. Like we have this great jurist, he's called Lord Denning. He's one of the greatest jurists of our age, of the 20th century. And he said, in terms of legal reform, when the law changes and society does not change, it is bad for the law. And when society changes, the law does not change, it is bad for the law. So both society and the law must change together. What we are seeing is we're seeing some anecdotal policy changes, but it is not going along with institutional change. You must transform the institutions, the way they do business, change the rules of the game, and then the institutions can change. You see, but if you have pretty much the same type of people in almost the same situation, and you expect that the situation will change, it's not possible. What we have is that every permanent secretary is a jack of all trades. That is impossible.
Yeah.
You change a permanent secretary of Minister of Foreign Affairs.
You take him to
the next time he is permanent secretary of Minister of Environment.
Yep.
Then the next time he is permanent secretary of Minister of
Foreign Affairs.
Then
trade.
The trade.
Yeah.
It is impossible.
That's impossible.
You cannot have one man to be the head of policy in all of these institutions, and he's supposed to be a jack of all trades. This is number one emblem, symptomatic of lack of reform in the civil service. We have still the same structure. And the other thing is, promotion in the civil service is still the same form. I think it should be based on merit. You shouldn't hold somebody who is an assistant secretary. You shouldn't hold him because he's an assistant secretary when he's far more competent than the permanent secretary. And we need to really break up this whole system. I am against this whole system of permanent secretaries. I'm against the whole system. It has not served the country under the dictatorship, and it is not serving now. It was good under Jawara's time. It was relevant for that era. But even if Jawara were president today, I am convinced that it would have changed.
It would have changed.
Yes. So we need to change. We need to change. I mean, it is very important that now we look at job restriction. You go to the civil service, how many of them have a job restriction? Most don't even know what their jobs are.
Yeah.
You ask them to write a letter. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy. One ministry to another ministry, the same method of writing correspondence.
Template.
Yes,
yeah.
Same template. That is, the government cannot function that way. Where is innovation? Where is creativity? I mean, why must we not liberate the minds so that they can do what is right for the country and not necessarily for the template?
What do we need to do to fix the civil service? If the civil service is not fixed, our economy will not be fixed. Our entire governance structure will not be fixed.
That is correct.
Because we need to fix this. Is the civil service that makes everything work.
I agree with you.
You take a letter to a government institution. I know this. You go to government institutions. You take a letter to the managing director's office or a minister's office. You have to follow it to every single office. If not, you will not find that office. It's so difficult to do business with civil. With government.
I agree with you.
It's so painful and difficult. You have payments in the system. It takes 2 years just because somebody is just holding it there and not taking. All you need to do is look at that. It's viable. It needs to be done. Take it out. It doesn't have to stay in your office for a year before you release these things. But this is what happened. Everything is just, you cannot describe it. What do we need to do to fix the civil service?
Our civil service needs a total overhaul. This is not the civil service to take the government where we are going. This civil service is a merry-go-round syndrome. I'm not saying there are incompetent people.
We have competent people.
There are a lot of competent people in the civil service.
It is the system.
But they're operating within a system that does not promote efficiency.
Efficiency.
Yes. Like I said, for example, civil service, there's no, now they're evolving with job descriptions. But even there, people they are not sticking to the job descriptions per se. So how do we do this? It is broken. We cannot fix this in this form. We're talking about reforms, but first and foremost, what we need to do is we need to break it up. Frankly, I believe, Fatou, first, ministers must have some autonomy. Everybody writes on behalf of the Secretary General. Everybody writes on behalf of the Permanent Secretary. And decisions wait for the Permanent Secretary. I mean, it really restricts initiative. Nothing is done without the approval. Of course, I know that government also has to follow some order and some format.
But there should be some.
I understand that, yes. Yeah. But I'll give you my own example. When I was Minister of Interior, my personal example is that I had a meeting with my SMT, and I did tell them, look, the Permanent Secretary is the head of, by law, of course, he's the administrative head. But the Permanent Secretary is under my supervision. Also, according to the Constitution, I am not only the political, but the administrative head of the ministry. So I wasn't one of those ministers who wait for a speech to be written for you, for policies to be made, to be minuted to. No, I would call. And I would write my own speeches, and I would prepare policy documents. My technicians they're around, they can hear what I'm saying. This is a fact. But then I do not also believe that everything should be channeled through the Permanent Secretary alone. In ministries all over government, it goes from the minister to the Permanent Secretary, and it goes down, it stays there. I believe in calling my Deputy Permanent Secretary. Look, the PS is busy. I want you to handle this aspect for me. I believe in calling a Senior Assistant Secretary, direct to my office, to talk about it, to discuss a particular issue that is under his or her purview. And I used to do that. But you see, there is resistance, because what I'm told is that honorable, but I'm told that the PS said I should go to. So I send the file to the PS. But I want an action today. I cannot have this action because the bureaucracy is blocking me. And then when you go again, then you have a Secretary General is calling. Well, it's like this, and the late Mr. Fadera. This is how it functioned. Honorable, when we allow this, we let it go through the Permanent Secretary, and so your spirit is dead. Nothing happens anymore. You wait. So it is the bureaucracy we have that we must dismantle. The bureaucracy is not designed for efficiency. When you want to get something done, it has to be done. And then that is one way that we must get rid of this negativity in the civil service. The second thing is commitment. You cannot bring commitment if you don't have sanctions. People in this country, they should get their jobs done. They don't get the job done, but there are no penalties. I go to office at 10 o'clock, fine, no penalties. By 3 o'clock, I'm finding a way to go home, no penalties. I'm working on a file that should take me a day, it takes me a week, no penalties. Because I'm protected by somebody, or we have a kabudu system. In the ministry, this and this are on the same side, then this and this I belong to that group. And then so you have these internal kabudus and that are there, and the kabudus protect the kabudus' interests. So national interest suffers, the public interest suffers. So that there are no sanctions. If you come to office late, you are paid by taxpayers. There ought to be consequences for coming late. There should be, there should be a to-do list for today. This is my to-do list. Every ministry, every official should have on your desk what to do today, what you should achieve. I should do A, B, C, D, and E, F. This is what should be achieved today. At the end of the day, you find out, have I achieved these things? If not, then a reason should be why you have not. Then the next day you move on. That commitment is necessary. It is not possible to have that commitment if you don't have the Permanent Secretary and the minister imposing it. But if the minister and the Permanent Secretary are found wanting, then how can you impose it? That's the second thing. The third thing is government is full of meetings. And these meetings are all negative and hostile. Everywhere you go, they are in a meeting, everyday meeting. Every day you go, the minister is in a meeting, PS is in a meeting, even the messenger are in a meeting. You find even the secretary, everybody wants to be in a meeting. It is as if being in a meeting makes you important, really. So these meetings, what comes out of it? They spend half the day meeting, moving from one ministry to another minister, holding meetings. Meanwhile, the public business is suffering because commitment is not there. So, and we do not also measure the quality of our labor force. We do not. But this is possible if the end of every year or every quarter, they are subject to accountability, just like accountants and people are subject to accountability. And how do we do this? We are told at the beginning that ministers, will be will be retained based on their performance or otherwise.
Yeah,
so there's going to be a performance review, and it's going to be public based. Now that was an excellent step. When I heard that, I was extremely happy.
Yeah.
Because if this public service sector functions, it functions for all of us.
Yeah.
Whether I'm in government or not, it functions for me. Because I also have issues that I have to deal with the public service, and I'm directly impacted.
Yeah.
I have people who come to me, atole mo long, ma ko ina failo bejana kabiring karuwal amanson tala. So if the public sector functions, that burden will not be on me. That social burden for me to help people to get their things done for them. So we must periodically audit the performance of public sector workers. We must. If you perform, you have a right to move on.
Yeah.
If you don't perform, then you do not cross the bridge. There are too many unemployed governments who are competent and will do so. When we begin to exert sanctions, consequences for poor performance, then we will move. But right now, it's a game for all. Whatever you feel like doing, you do it. And then also, civil servants are always looking for where to make extra money.
Yep.
That is another thing.
Is that because they
well, of course, poor salaries.
Poor salaries.
Society has a lot of expectations of them. Society demands a lot from public sector workers. You are earning 5,000, they think you are earning 20,000. The demands come from 5,000 salary, the demands are like 50,000.
Yeah.
And then you have to find ways of getting that as well. So I think we need a leaner civil service. The civil service, I believe, is over bloated.
Yeah.
It's too many people. We need to retrench.
Almost $1 billion for just 3 ministries.
Recurrent expenditure.
Recurrent expenditures.
I think that is too much. I want a public sector that is very competent, but I don't want an over bloated civil service. The purpose of civil service is merely to facilitate a policy framework that will make it easier for the individual citizen to be empowered. The private sector, like your media organization, the government should rely on you to generate employment. You are hiring people. You need facilities where you pay taxes. And so many other incidents that move the economy.
Yeah.
So the function of government should be to empower you to be able to do that more, so that you will generate the employment. You will raise the revenue that we can tax, so that you will raise the efficiency and the competency, that is going to, to the general advantage of the entire population. That is what the civil service should do. It is not necessarily a center of employment. No. Civil service, the government should operate in such a manner that it will leave the private sector to drive the nation. And the government will become policy makers, policy supervisors, and regulators. That is what I believe government should do. Yes.
Now, looking at the economy, it's the same. You just look at the civil service.
Yes.
Looking at the economy, just last week, I think a few days back, the governor of Central Bank had a press conference.
Yes.
Inflation is high. Our domestic debt is above the roof compared to the past 2 years. The dollar is depreciating against all major currencies.
That is correct.
Public service lending is gone down. It seems like, and still the Minister of Finance tells us Gambia is doing well, our economy is doing well. But you look at all these numbers, we are depreciating 14.2% against the CFA.
That is correct.
Against the dollar, against the euro, against all other major currencies. And you still tell us the economy is doing well. Rice is expensive today. Cash power, every other thing that we consume is more expensive today than yesterday.
That is correct.
What was your assessment of the economy? Is this realistic? For how long can we hold like this?
Well, I agree with you. The population is hurting a lot, and inflation has been an upward movement throughout.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it, and we are told that there are internal, external, what they call exogenous factors, external factors and internal factors. And externally, they say our economy is subject to the shocks that are happening around the world. And they will always give you Ukraine, and they will give you, before it was COVID, and then they will give you the Ukraine and all these things. They will talk about the disruption in the global supply chain and all that. Fatou, I believe the most important thing is that every household owner, kordati o kordati yalo nako ila korda depanso ni mela korda depanso lonno ita nyanta jelle depanso ila korda kono ita la dimba sambalano. So what is important is the Gambia should quote according to our size. I think there is a lot of extraordinary extra budgetary expenditure that are unnecessary. I'll give some of the reason why I believe that inflation should be curbed and how it can be curbed. But first and foremost, I do not believe that our resources are such that we should be in this situation. We should not be in this situation.
We should not be.
Yes, for example, the basic commodities, rice, sugar, flour, all these things, they keep going up and they do not come down.
Yeah.
Let us take the example of just rice alone. The government is said to be subsidizing rice. I mean, there's no import, you don't have any duty on rice, for example.
Yes.
And that goes down to several millions of dollars. The purpose of that, that public money is intended to cushion,
to bring the price down.
cushion the effects of,
the
whatever
inflation on rice,
external market prices is dictating.
Yeah.
But we've seen that those millions go, but notwithstanding, rice has never come down. Even if the cost of rice goes down in the world market, in the Gambia it does not come down, it still goes up. That is one factor. There has to be a reason for that. And there has to be, government must intervene. Because if I'm giving you money,
and you're not,
and the purpose of giving you the money is so that the price can be stabilized, and then it is not stabilized, it is increasing, then there ought to be another intervention. Yes, that is one.
Yeah.
The second thing is, the Gambia is not producing anything at all. We are not producing sufficient food to feed ourselves. And we import almost 100% of our needs. Whether it is, consumer products or high-end goods, everything the Gambia brings is 100% imported. Our export is almost nil. So our balance of trade deficit is humongous and it keeps increasing all the time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do to do much about this because we are not producing enough. And this is why foreign currencies are scarce, because we are not doing much to bring in foreign currency. We are sending out too much, we are importing too much, and the demand for forex is high. As a result, forex is also going to go high. All these things are having a direct impact on inflation. So what do we need to do now? First, we need to rein in government spending. Government is overspending, spending more than government is receiving. Our revenue, net revenue coming in, far exceeds our net expenditure. The reason for this is because we are not prioritizing correctly. Our prioritization on fuel, on vehicles. Government is spending hundreds of millions on purchase of vehicles. And these are not ordinary vehicles, they are four-wheel drives. Vehicles that demand high fuel intake, high fuel use. And when you have these vehicles, which are government vehicles, and then they also need high maintenance, high repair cost. The third thing is they also consume fuel. Of course, many of these modern vehicles are fuel efficient, but the government is spending a lot on fuel coupons. Millions and millions of dollars every month on fuel coupons. These are all leakages. These are wasted areas that have no bearing on our productivity. So these are monies that are going into the drain. They are not coming back to us, and they are not improving the efficiency of those using these vehicles. Because it is supposed to help them to move. It is supposed to improve their thinking, number one, so that they can do smart thinking for us, to get us out of our predicament, to make them comfortable enough so that subjectively they'll be positioned to think for us extraordinarily, to get us out of our situation. But it has become a status symbol to drive a four-wheel drive. Whether you need it or not, the needs assessment is not done. Does this officer need it? I'm a PS, I should have a four-wheel drive. So needs assessment is not there. We are investing in areas that are total wastage, and I call leakages. And number two, even in the productive sector where we should be investing, we are not investing right. So that the benefit of poverty alleviation is not going directly to the beneficiaries. It is also leaking at different areas. And because we are not investing properly in the right sectors, in the right productive social sectors, the money is being wasted. And this wastage also goes, it goes into maximizing our difficulties. So the efficiency and the gains that we're looking for are not there. We are not getting money we are not getting our money's worth in terms of the service. This is another factor. The third thing is, any country that is developed today is industrialized. If we do not focus on industrialization, we will not be able to manufacture, we will not be able to improve services to export. And as long as we do not improve our productive base, particularly the manufacturing, light industries, and invest in these areas so that we can generate employment, we can grow the economy, we can attract foreign exchange, bring in foreign exchange, we will continue to remain in this situation. So it's all about policy direction. Where should we focus more?
That should be focused.
It is not possible to get this because we have lost track of the reform agenda.
Is privatization the right policy direction for what we are doing now? It seems like the government is strapped for cash because we have seen they are privatizing the Senegambia Bridge. We have seen what they have done at the airport. Ground handling used to be handled by the GIA, that's our national carrier. Now they are driven to only selling tickets. They don't do, we have a new private ground handling service at the airport, a private business instead of our national carrier. We have seen Gamcell being sold. We have seen, ferry service most likely. Today, as we speak, 2 ferries are stranded in the sea right now with people. So we have seen a lot of privatization. This new finance minister, though, what I've seen is the direction is let's sell, let's lease, is that the way to go? I mean, it seems like we need the cash, we will take it. Do you think that's the way to go?
No, I do not think there should be indiscriminate privatization. I mean, of course, I am not on the seat, to see 100% from the view lens of what is internal. But looking at it empirically, every government, ought to be able to set up your pace of development based on your circumstances. That is very important. That is why, if you look at history throughout, all the way down from the medieval times, coming down, to the age of industrialization, to industrialization age, as we see, the growth of printing and all that, the Enlightenment. Nations move according to, their circumstances and what their aspirations are. So you take your circumstance and you take your aspiration. This is where I am, but this is where I aspire to be. What would it take to achieve that aspiration? That is what every nation does. But there are certain constants about every country that do not change. For example, the Gambia today, there are strategic assets I believe should never be privatized because of our current level, because of our current circumstance in history. Some of these are, number one, I do not believe our port ought to be privatized. It's a national strategic asset. I do not believe our airport ought to be privatized. Management of the airport can be, because in Ghana you have Ghana Airport Authority Limited, So it is a company, a government company that is running it, with the flair of a private enterprise. That can do. Because government as government is not a good business person. Because government's appetite for spending is always there.
But civil aviation and GIA are their own parastatals, their own, so that should have been better.
I understand. What I'm saying is that certain strategic assets should not be privatized. Government should be able to render them efficient, such as electricity, NAWEC and water. Although I believe electricity and water should separate them.
Yes.
But they are strategic assets. I do not believe that, well, for GIA, GIA also of course, I think with this new company, I do not know all the facts. But I know that GIA should have been supported, to reach a level in order for them to revolutionize their operations. In terms of technology, in terms of funding. I'm sure over the years, if government has invested the necessary investment into GRA, they would have adapted. They would have adapted to sophistication and to efficiency. So that shows government is not really a good business person. So a private sector comes in and there is competition. But there is no competition because GRA is in very bad shape. It cannot compete. It will be dead. Sooner or later, GRA will close down. And it will be taken over by, is it Nairo? Most of its services are taken over, and its clients are also running away. So GIE, we are only waiting to put it in the casket. Down the line, it's not going to go. Unless government pumps in money, raises the technology, and gives it preferential treatment. So I believe that privatization is a way to go in some areas, but not this wholesale privatization that we are seeing. I believe there should be management companies that perhaps could be handled by the private sector, but the industry its own, the sector its own should remain public. It should remain public. I think the Elitenda, that bridge should remain publicly owned. The management may be privatized, in order to raise revenue because we need the money. And if it is better in private hands, and the government is getting, the needed revenue, then it is in public hands. Well, perhaps that will work well for the country. So I favor privatization where the public sector has failed and the public sector is not suitable for it, then we should go private. But where the public sector deliberately has been disempowered, Like in the case of GIA, I think there's no reason for it.
There's no reason for it.
Yes.
Yeah. And now, Honorable, let's look at the big elephant. I don't know how to call it. The FGM back and forth.
Oh, that is still in vogue.
It's still there. And the thing is, you and my grandson, what's the name, Bachile, you are the only politicians, you know, how the Keda in India.
Ha, to nyalem.
Bill,
Sensitive to back.
sensitive.
Ha, jama be kuma fala.
No.
Ita kuma.
Ni chuhun the fumbatat.
Ita kuma fala parce que political risk la bije.
Mo mang hani kama.
Iman la fi activisol ning musole musodole la politico affect. Iman la fi fanan banko la majority men fanan la talo fane je nya doma. Baru munafiki alati.
Honorable, Monday National Assembly the second reading settle on the 18th.
Yes.
And you know, the majority of the National Assembly, sitting there, Deputy Speaker Yafoko, they will make sure the law stays. And you are one of those people who believe the law should be repealed.
No, Honorable Sitting Jai, law is still alive. But I mean, I'm finish social media, you know.
So don't let me post no. So I mean, he called us and said that was 6 months ago. That was the time Suleiman. The time Suleiman Sahoe below Natin on the National Assembly. That's few months back, like 3-4 months back.
Yes.
Kabriba table kanu, Honorable Sirinjai was in London. And Imam Ole meeting was so that was a private meeting.
Okay.
At the end of the video, you could even hear him saying, I cannot record.
Yes.
You understand? So that was a private meeting, but this was some 3 months ago. So now, Kabri Nata, you know, even some of the National Assembly members believe all of my opinion, you know. But obviously, I guess a particular position of community now a na position. The Kabrin video finti, the Kabrin tolfana ya finti. I have statement of bondile katandiko. Ignore the video, ignore the noise there. You know, FGM is harmful, which I respect him for. But this was his position few months down the line, like 3-4 months ago. So. People can have change of heart.
Of course.
I guess that's what he had.
Oh, he has a right to.
Yeah, but the law is here to stay. They will make sure it doesn't go.
Well, you know.
Why do you support? I think Dr. Olko FGM is harmful. Times have changed. You know, FDA law repeal.
Fatou, besides Dino La Carola. Bari dol ko dino mu dol ko dinate yo bari mo dankinata menna wala matala dinoti men amuta dinoti amu wala dinolati eta abola no wolbe ko dinote parce que dino famu dankini alam nimmo ko at dankini alam men mala dinoti wala dol bi je ni be sallay ke bulo kete wala dino ko ni man nyinke ila salo mam beteya bari dol ke bulo jindi wal fanan ko wala beteyata men ke bulo jindi an men ke bulo ke santo ibe ka dino le fo bari momo tamu men di to abulo momo tamu men to abulo ko so niya tara wala mu ndenga nyine mutako dino subjectif la mu abe mo la kunna miro le bulu mo ko la kunna miro te kala non tati kadun Gambia nga jale ko hani dunia fa ko da muslimul fatata ku jamale la hani karo men fela jata ten Supreme Islamic Council ye lor ye kanklaro ke ko nga sun kabirin kunu andol ngada de kunune bari kunu ngaje rodal majal fana findita wol ko bilem and mbebe nyindi na kilo la fo mbe ko nyi ala kilo fo bari mota fono la ko because ito le adati bila ito man sungo soto on tol mele adati kunun ko kunun tolenga sungo soto parce que dino man na wala ko tenke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ay memfo ala kitabo kono ako ning ayatara fatata nyola nga nyosa ba kula mambenno kanto nga obulaje yomal kiyama asen kitinde o tonyala wala mu alquranoti usasol betulo benna nyinam tonyati sani ni ndela dino e nyina jinna ko hadiso minalongo e findita nteya hadiso sahiro ngomiti so be atale bari interpretation olum abe ko lo yal dron ndeka kulikinu nyinata nga interpret differently ita ko a guilty tale nyindo ko amangilty but we are all looking at the same sets of facts based on those same sets of facts ndeka a defend ko tonyati amang guilty ita fanan the same facts la jube ko a guilty ta at the end of the day jojo le ka decide ni man son jojo ma ka appeal ko tanke so interpretation ole fatata dolu ko hadiso nyin asahiyatale scholars dolu ko aman sahiya So ning itela skola ko asahiyata ite be wala noma asahiyata itele ite men da ko amanse ite fo non dita rontale ite manki alati imanki kilati mbeni mbe fo kan kila komale sallallahu alaihi wasallam amantara baluring binasa af mole nyinnamo momo ba interpret kanne dol ko science of hadith ye nyinde fo dol ko science of hadith man nyim fo bari abe sonta ko e dol ko sunno lamu dol ko onalemu bunyale muslimo muslime musoe bari hani kilima fo ajawyata dinol kono sanyi kabring rasul botaje so many years later sanyi keme jama nying falindirol benakan bari o kuma yata ndala kudiyamo manda o damala de ndala diyamo be kargo menna abe besring luwale kan banko la marli kitabo ndeka o jube bake mbe ko ku kela hani politiko ko nka o jube bake fo anim banko la marli kitabo ta da katu bi wala be marlintol beba masak ndamu bang masakunata mu bang mbebe wala koto luwati keren nyim banko kan men sambo warta marli kitabo nyinti constitution nyinti na constitution nyin ko ako momo ni be nyingembe banko kan ila nyanto la mu ite ila dino idata dino men day bula o silo noma bari o dino nyim fanan e da amanke damma nyanta la dino nyin nade bari dino nyi ye men nyin ka pour ka tamandi ye la nyanto so ko fanake oto nintela dino nte muslimo lete ntela dino nyi tan nako kata nyakato sunnoto ntela dino lamu constitution o ayo tankale aya tankale aya protect la tankale woto nitela dino itata ila interpretation ni yoni ndeta fatata ite fanana interpretation no men ko akanata condition fana yo tankale ay ndeta tanka ay itata tanka bari na itata tebulu ay ndeta tumbulu ay la nyanto tebulu na ndeta tambulu ay itata tubulu ay ndela nyanto tambulle banko la marle kitabo ko the right to freedom of religious belief and to exercise the religious belief is the fundamental constitutional right. Amanke marli kitabo damantide ako nyin tunkungo momo te nyin falin nola foi ta referendum wala National Assembly ta falin nola by simple act of parliament president ta falin nola assembly te mola nyin banko kan men so falin ni loi falin no fo ngeta election wala gambe di sonko anyanta ka fali wala entrenched provision is entrenched. It cannot be amended.
Or religious freedom, right?
Freedom cannot be amended.
Okay.
No law can amend it in this, no act of parliament, only through a referendum. Foman sekunda yata Gambia be election okay fanya fali. That is the state of the law.
Yeah.
And moto so no la fo jending abadang butu fe. Ate fali moto so no la. So ning condition nyanto dila. Pour itala dino e même fo yebla onoma. Sa intala dino ko nanta ndu samala nyakato. Wala mun tela dino ti. Ite ko manya nakela. Wato condition e nyanto minela ya boy dile.
But luwa nyimbi jere already.
Wa bijele luwa nyimbi jere wala nante ko. Ka FGM la loi this part ani banko la marli kitabo fota nyo komale wala tin ndeta support no la ka loi ni aje banko kanjang abota marli kitabo le bala a sembo ta wala ko loi ni aje banko kan nying cyberspace men fo kan nying criminal amendment fen ko ni ani loi ko mu me be ila sembo yata constitution wala bala sembe tela na mango ni o bondi je rebe boylale. So FGM la loi fana abe semberi wala la. Ye right to keller religion exercise. So nintela religion. Ndenga believe ko na interpretation of my hadith and my followers ye nyinefo. That is our right. Mo na entitled melody. Bari ma foko dolbe nying dolse nying argument ta ya overstretch. Ya foko so ni la itela dino mu jalangolati. Jalang ko nyanta mo falale ya sala. So nyanta le ngebula. Mo fo. Because constitution fana ya fole ko kuku if it is repugnant and obnoxious to natural justice, you know, public order and good governance man wo fana de kelano abebe constitution kilu nyene kono so yalla wote kelam kadu wote kelano kam momu taka kan kundu kadu ite ba jalam batol hani kadu constitution fana yo bayde bari nyindo ama o bay mbenga lo ko muslimi ata fala ko almunadi ali akam kundu kensen woto da sariya to bari o mankente la constitution oti so ite mo kan kuntan no jang kadu na barli kita o man so ala bari min yalo ke la barli kita bo sonda ko ni sunyaro ke nyande bulo kuntula wali ya luwa ala mo ndum wala nyanta ka ha ndol la jang min ko anyanda kake ila dino la milata wala you don't need to go to Al Azhar University kana fonte ko mun na dinoti because one more subjectively they are scholars and scholars are not God. They are just human beings like us. they do conduct research and they, come to formulations and they develop an expertise in the area. But experts have been proven wrong all the time.
Yeah.
The experts will not like court expert witness. You do the court bungo kono la, FM kono, box kono la, meaning mulola.
Yeah.
At the end, nibe wala ikakono la fa fidita. Ha. Nta manke accountanti, but niye nati into a fraud case involving accounts. Mbe accountant no bula box kono. Jana findije abe wonda la fa accounting kara. Because mbe muru na la nyaming, alaba abe jahalale. So experts are not perfect. They make mistakes, and not only that, they also have inclination, they are biased.
Yeah, people can be biased on...
You can conduct a research to prove your point. Not necessarily that you are doing objectively, but this is your premise, and you research to prove the premise.
My barriere ko near molde jama ba ko ite mu human rights defender and nyun ko mi nyaka ta jama ikake mole min yalon ko they are young at that point if we can decision utano ifangwe, for example, right? And then nin doctor ko ake mantorale aka musola jatu kenda ko research ya shole ko musodo wuluwala karola nim fanan other health complications akoleke andum akake di mola wato min akatare mon futa 18 years iman decision o te fangwe. So that person the right to violate kan because nin doctor ko asa mantoro natai atemang consent soto ka fo ha o hanin titano deni mari basamaka ni hajibe o aspa perspective fanan jube imamira ko be musu dinne ngolo ibe la nyanto la tinyaka
Fatou yanyin kacal me beje alinga to nya fo nyoye mirel te kerin dunia kono me alon ko is purely objective momo e mirror any opinion any view abota momo bala there is an amount of selfishness in the opinion subjectivity bijele ni research membe iba fo kanteng nta manke doctor ti donc man counter research ke kayla ila research ka proof wrong bari ku kilinga wolon ko Gambia be bejande million sanji wuli jama Gambia be jande andung nyim akake no njang sañing nga ala tentu nga masingol soto jaralo soneyata bor kutol findita men ka jaralo keno bari sanji keme koma o sanji keme fula koma jinga kele jande fam ka kijang wotu mo lopiano man soto bolon ko fa ndol bi dam lopian tije jam fanan wotu mo arbité famal lo amallo Bansang hospital man lo lopian man soto Gambia kono docteur man tar keri bari na musolu almost 100% ikata nyaka to le ding killing fo din tan nim fo le ka be wulule e bokata lopian e ka wulu su wala kono bon kono ko ra kono je musol min yalon ko ene man medicine fam to ko definition o long at all andung ibuka fa iniyo buka tuje andung asekole ya fo ko ibuka ke wala dialog isa fo non tan akirante lan tema dialog bari ka fo kari kote kari ma dialog to fola no so o kakele andung aketale sanji jama meli katu tungoto akasodole mina lon ko nibe tingoto e katu akasodole bare abukasiya pasinde nyindo ata bake sai men katu tingoto with all science and advancement wala siyata nun to men ka ke mamla wato la ani mbama la wato so ngani sodo ko ndingo la wato wofana wala be wosla abama la wato katu be dunka wala kono sai fatu men ka C section ke me alon ko aning FGM mang nyo soto nyola wala siyata min alon ko FGM be bala ika wulu natural so ndema foko docteur men foto nyaati de bari bente convince no wala nyaadi le ndunde ngalon ko na society kono la to mo mi alon ko sojiri man soto loptanol man soto bañu loptano mallo bansanta mallo loptan kote mallo na mol ka wulu kordal kono la itu ibukatu tingoto ande men ka tutti mol ka tutti bare aka doyale ande wotu mo men ka tutti wala doyata say men ka tutti ngoto ande FG mbeta kan hani sani woto mo ta fulan non te ko FG mela layatina ni mol be wulu la ka tutti ngoto ndeso na wala fulan jango demang man statistique ni banko kan me ay tandi na ko Royal Victoria Hospital or any other hospital musukon ma filendi afata and the cause of death is because the person has gone through FGM kabrabe wulukan cause of death what is the cause of death well or contributory factor maybe not the main cause but a contributory factor to the cause of death secondary factor or even a subsidiary factor or sub-secondary factor I need to see that itafalanya don doctor amambita mulbe fakan you did not give me the statistics men findita well the number of people who go through what they call FGM. We have that statistics. But health-wise, we are not given an accurate statistic as to the number of people who have gone through FGM and have adverse complications. I'm not stubborn. I want to be convinced. But I'm not an animal just to follow anybody just like that. I have a brain. Disagree with me.
But have you been able to contact some of these because they have the numbers, they have the facts, were you able to this? You are an opinion leader, and Nico Fenemiano is harmful to Musolo. It will be good to try to get those facts and be able to.
I agree with you. In fact, I agree. Well, I made two public interventions. Follow unko. Ning ayataraka musol tora. Ikaka musol tora.
Yeah.
We must balance it.
Yeah.
The right of the woman to reproductive health against the right of freedom of religion, which is in the Constitution. These things must fully harmonize.
Yeah.
Because the law cannot say I have a right to my freedom of worship and in the manner that I worship, my freedom of belief, religious belief. And my religious belief tells me that female circumcision is sunnah.
Yeah.
Whether somebody else believes that or not, but that is my religious belief. For example, anybody who believes that, that is protected by the Constitution. Then there is another law that says it cannot take place. That law is at variance with the Constitution. If you want it to take place, then you first have to reconcile the law. That is my first problem. What is the first problem? If you solve that problem, I don't have any issue with it. This is why I support the idea of leaving it.
Whoever wants to do it.
Or those who don't want to do it.
Yeah, the meaning, now, law and repeal.
Yes. Now, if you are also saying that kids, infants, babies, do not have a right to consent.
Yeah.
What things do they have a right to consent? Tell me one thing that babies or kids consent to with their parents before it is done for them.
Nothing.
Tell me.
Absolutely nothing.
Their entire life, what do they consent to?
Until they get to 18, nothing.
Well, so why are you speaking one thing? If you are saying because they do not consent to FGM, our kids don't consent to anything. In our traditional, cultural, and African setting, they don't consent, we impose on them. The African child is a victim of imposition by the parent. That is what we know, and that is a legacy. We send them to the school we want. We send them to Dara. They go and learn religious knowledge. We marry them off, sometimes with force, even when they attain 18, sometimes below 18. So the right of the child, is a different dimension in the African setting. The African concept of the right of the child is different from the European concept. Because what we believe is that until nyantale nye guide nye kulu dajiko la, until nga dajiko melong. For the European, dindungo bula, kana dindungo lapifang, abula na lafta minna ayoke. Wala na dindungo solo ya afa ma mfama itele mulu bati. Mfama ikanyi mfani abale fu mol kono. Yajele, until man la wala. Until ko dinno ika tetele. Until ko dinno ika bula le bula la denno no ma. So two standards level. This is why, in France, they tried to outlaw the veil. Because, even though with all their modern libertarian thinking. So we must understand our society and change our attitude and our practices based on the standards of our society. Not necessarily measure it from what is outside. So I do not want to appear like, I'm against, like someone said here, he hates women. how can you say hate women?
No,
I'm not going into that. But if your argument is that these people do not consent, our children do not consent to anything. Everything we do for our children, we do it for them without asking them, even when they are 18. Because young ikatale for 21, 22, 25 years, ibe fama la korla kono, ibe ba ma koto. Ni be findila ko nyindani ko ini nyinte findila korla kono jam. Ni nata suo kuta ko bita dina korla kono jam. Sometimes don't come nyai fence le. Cool be kake. Because you still, for the European standard, a mature man or a mature woman. Young, you're still not mature. Young, as long as you, definitely, I live with I have my kids. Talk about grandkids. But when my dad and mother are alive, I'm still a small kid to them. And that is our culture.
That's our culture.
The last point, I know of a woman who went through FGM at the age of 24. I know this person. Maybe Abela Moikanale. At the age of 24, because it's this person is entitled to it. The law, even if it is to protect one person, the law must protect this person. This person's right to the Constitution. So if someone, an adult who wants to do it, cannot even do it under this law, an adult who knows about all the risks available, but still decided I want to do it, he cannot be criminalized. But you are suppressing these adults' right to freedom of religion and religious practice. Is it fair? Is it fair? Must we have unequal rights based on sentiment? They are saying this is sin, but it's based on sentiment. So, to support female circumcision does not make you an outdated man. To support female circumcision does not make you uncivilized. To support female circumcision doesn't mean you are not progressive or you don't like women's rights. That is not true. I want to disagree with all these things. They raise these issues in order to intimidate you so that you will not come out. But everybody knows I cannot also be caged. Yeah. This is my view. And because I believe there should be female circumcision doesn't mean I'll practice it. That's what
I said.
Honey killing, dimusu saba. Dimusu fala lebe mbulu nung. Saya nga dimusu saba so nga ala tentu. Ninyul close tabake. Mo beka avo ba famaning dimusu leka dia. Andu ndeta to mtonya leti. Ntani dimusu dia tabake. Honey killing manta nyaka ndo honey killing ta sambala. Bari nimen ko abadi mo sambala. Ibalan tambelo la marie. Kadu wala mala nyanto ti banko la luwa. Ha. Mbe nyanto le kelekan. Ka foko dindingul lo mu they cannot decide. Homo faniality. Ibe dingu sambala karamu momento ya nyinin kale bang. Ibe dingu sambala dara ya nyinin kale bang. Fika ngan dingu nyinin ka ko lale. Bukan dingu nyinin ka ko bele ke. So ka kukilin tombong ka warandi. Kamuta ko momo kewo son nyina ite mu musol la jawoleti. Kewo son nyina ite mu kulum moleti. Kewo son nyina ite mang imanke sakon teme mu be banku nyiningula. Manya na banko di la nyinula. Fo banko kanyin dalila kilinde kam. Ha? Banko akanyini dalila kilinde kam. Moment soto nyim banko kam me women's rights support kata mentela. Nobody. But nyim fana mafoko anyanta kakidi akuya. Nko the state of the law is such that it is unconstitutional. Ani luwala mantani wala. Da support wala.
So ite min lafta kele min lafa kana.
Ni ba kala fana son dako. To nyala aka problem ka soto jede fa. FGM aka problem bale ko.
Problem all cause. Sa kona man keku.
Jama buka keku. Wamu to nyaleti. Fatu jamale buka keku. Nyaje mbe nyim problem be kono la. Nyan simbal buka ka nyama. Wala ka toro nati mol kam. Sako kamu sorong. Kamu ka sil. Fatu wo manke dinati. Sil manke ha. Wo fama manke dinati. Amantara hadis kono hani week hadis amantara je. Kana mo sil. Wo mu kulle di barbaric practice lo manyanda ka so wala. Those are very bad. Kadu ngambari ndin doje. Inyanda asamala ke maya. Ndele labanta ma koy la man lafta diam ni be kono. Nga samba dami mpruka ma koy. Ngalo ni kadu akema mu tamalaleti. Anata lokum fula man kuno. Fu anata ko nyoko mbari ntamolo le made nyine be ninke ma tema mbete ni malo be kala nyame ay newtor bari janning fitro esi nga ko sofle ha nga sol so ngalo ne ko aka mantoro natele bari mantoro nyin amman ala percentage o do yatale bari hana tara clean namu nyanta standard le sotola ko docteur yake docteur yake nim problème o sotota ibe loptan wala to annun ko ngake fana amanke docteur beti docteur minu lafta akela ni certified the certificate or soto momo lafta kele ibeta o certified doctors layer doctors who are certified and they have certificates to conduct the court for example isata awliya bari ngan simba le nyanta bola ngan simba ko nsonta ko nyanta outlaw lale we should ban this issue of ngan simba wala nyanta bola but in practice if it is a religious prescription then we should find a medical solution of doing it sanitarily and sanely, so that the process can take place as prescribed by the hadith, those who believe in the hadith. And those who don't believe in it is apology. But it should be regularized, should be standardized, and it should be medicalized. This is my belief. And the Ngansimba system, Nyanto Brukala. The new one, Mosakeno.
Is Lord, National Assembly members will remove a message on the 18th second reading. Do you have any message for them?
Mbafaleko ni repeal, ni mang repeal. They are in violation of the constitution.
Nima repeal.
For example, ni luwa tu anyama. Amar repeal. Ya banko la mara kitabu bo indile. Atunkung amina muanni warula killing sabanyang. I remember very well. You know, it's an entrenched clause in the constitution. Freedom of religious belief and the right to practice your religion. And it's not only that. Honey, the African Charter on human and people's rights protects religious freedom. It does even the covenant, the international covenant on civil and political and protocol, political protocol. Wofana religious freedom guarantee. The European Convention on Human Rights, religious freedom guarantee. All major international treaties all protect the right of religious freedom and religious practice. All of them. Wow. Even though, if you look at the African Convention on Women, Women Convention, specifically mentioned the issue of FGM there. But in the Bangkok, international law, treaties, Abukana is not automatic application. It has to go through parliament. Not at a parliament, then it becomes part of our domestic law. So the Gambian reservation, but Bangkok reservation, if it conflicts with their constitutions, it doesn't happen. Mauritania, even France. France submitted reservations to CEDAW. Most importantly, the United States has not still ratified CEDAW. The most advanced country in terms of freedom in the world. The leader of freedom, United States. Hanisa musola lua me alongole nyanta dunia musul be tankala. America balante ko itakala. Do you know who has been lobbying against the ratification of the CEDAW? American Bar Association. It is part of our laws in the Gambia. Ndolnga sign nga ratify. Hani bi America manzo lua me nyanta musul tankala dunia kono. Imanso na ratify. Kabring 1974 bi 1970s fokanabula bila. American Bar Association from the leaders of Holman fokanabula bila. American lawyer la kafo. Wale lobby ko akanake. Ndol bi jang wi akot kan. Nko ha akirating.
Honorable, thank you so much. I wish fitro sita tenno. Kuja mabije nyanta min kashala no.
Tonya.
Ibe unkuma la bana sita mi fola mol be jibero.
Mbe fola National Assembly, mbe fola Gambian Kole. Banko katatenne. Banko doko mang sonea. Mola miro buka ke kilinti. Bari ali nga horomo so do nyoe, nga patient so do nyoe, nga nyola miral nga horoma nyoe. Kadung kafoko ite idankini ata nyinela. So mai fati man dankini awala. Mai fati banku din kurumolati. Hum mistake olati. Kafoko fati dankini ata nyinela. Mai fati man so wala fatu banku din kurumolati. Wote to nyati. Woto ninga difference so do na miral nyato. Ali nga stop kanyo level. Nkana nyo kumandi tolla. Hey, I'm disappointed. Mai fati human rights lawyer muna na being support la. Mai fati bulala dalilo noma. I'm disappointed. Nyemu dina moleti. Ako note. Hani bulala dalilo no. Mol buka mirano kilinti. Mol buka mirano buka kenu asobiti. Ala momo dale anila jernya. Nina jernya fatata. Nganyola jernya horma. Wala ati nga political problem so nyimbanko kan. Kadi ni mantara na pati. Nga kuofo amanku maya. Ni ba nyimpati ko tawto. Ni kuofo mena lele fang desonna. Wala banko tinya. Ali nga nyo horma. Nga nyo bunya na lodlal na miral nyala tumaron se keno kilinti nini mola al miral manke kilinti wata kanyanta ay même fo a horma kan afane e horma eta kan isaje alsitano ha bare ni momo ko ndanga même fo wala mtonyati ni man so mayta man tonyafo woto ab finno le natla kadu mo forcer no la fula labanga wala musol la nying musol la nyatota misa kala muta ko kewbe manda manke andi ndam man keje fang me alon ko ay muso ko na sorota adango do yata kadu muso ke ibe ba ma kanule ni be ba ma ko ni ba ma do ma kanu ye bari muso kanu no de ki ila muso kanu woto ke me muso kon o do yata le bari ke wol sorota men fana silanta muso la nyaato tala kadu ni amira ko ni la muso na nyaato ta soto aba fo warandi le kan o fana mu mistake oleti ni nga muso se ben tiandi men tolle ma ko la men na dimbale ma ko la so an ni muso be kulun kiling be nyaato tale noma ali nga musolu ma koy ntabli tale ko nyanta at least minimum 30% every government palazzo private and public musolu nyanta kamera mbili ta ko musolu nyanta percentage o dilela mbili ta fana musolu nyanta ngi sembentu andi bari musolu fana be keri nyimbanko kan meni yalon ko ila balwo mume bebe dending ka musolu ko kele bari ik fanku kan kadu ni lafta musolu ko kele la ko do kana kabut la be lo tutari tubabol be ko do dilela kafol be ko do dilela fatu ko din eta banko be yayi ni na da isiato kan mo lo ye ding idum sama tubaab ye karandi karam bu mbalto wol ma musol kan dala musol kan wolti
wol man tara musol ma koy kan
ibe nyim banko kan jam ibe tamala dunya be kare be musol la ko fala bari ni ye nyinin ka ni ye wol nyin kay koy tasi bolo musol be ko le amen kono je hani telikile to sonna balula woro ali ngani nafiki abala musol le muso kon katambi ke muso kon nyamen wala fana be nyim banko kan bari musuka fo le fana be jang men be tapale ake kan musol to noma ifan ko kan o fana be nyim banko kan jande de sonna wala ha ni be dunna de sonna
wala baraka baake Mai Ahmed tentula ngeje ra kasha diata baake I wish we could go in more but we should come often especially Senegal ko lafta nu nga kasha nu je baake
diata defal no baake
bari sa tay ho banda sunte wato sida
sago dem alma moliti nyam dala
fidiro salola wato sida wato banda but definitely we should have a conversation around that very soon before the election we should definitely have that because that would be very interesting
mbina inkili hani mi nyinkili do fenke kili do jena ba kili do bari hani nay ka cha so
afo jena bay ko sainte ta killa te be kala killa directly
jena ba fadusma jigel la
jena ba man duma la oyat fadusma jigel la honorable la wax direct
wala fadu ngalon ko abantale bari mbe mo be haketara la Gambia be ala hakotunye dol politicien la ko siata mbe mo kuma la mbe kuma kuru fala mulma awa mbe ko kala melta silati woro mbe mol be haketara la ning sunkaro kan mba fol albesa al hako boyndinye ninga ko mafo moye mente silati ngako ke mela memde silati wala napatiyo mole ko mafo ma mente silati o ye kuke mente silati ala al hako tunye mbe mo be hako danila nde nak ngamo nga hako du mo be
inshallah
mola hakate nabi
mote hakate baraka baake honorable me tentu nge jay and the technical team ngal tentu ngal jay until we come again next week inshallah. Good night to you all. See you again. Bye bye.